Today, we're thrilled to be joined by Larry Levine and Darrell Amy, respectively, founder and author of Selling from the Heart and marketing strategist and author of Revenue Growth Engine. So Larry's Selling from the Heart and marketing strategist, and Darrell is Revenue Growth Engine. I'm really excited to be with you guys. There was talk between our camps for a little while about making this happen, and here we are. So thanks so much for joining us. We're gonna jump right in, Larry and Darrell. So and you guys can decide who's gonna start, but tell us a little bit about your business. Let's start with what you guys do, and then we'll back up into how all of that started.
So I'll throw it Darrell's way because I got the story on how this all started, but I'm gonna let Darrell roll with this, and then I'm gonna share the backstory to the story.
Awesome.
Well, we're on a mission at Selling from the Heart to bring authenticity and trust into the sales profession. And so we get to coach sales professionals and sales teams in highly relational industries like healthcare, financial services, manufacturing, on how to grow their business by developing trust with their prospects and clients. So Selling from the Heart is a project that is really a passion project that started out of Larry and I doing a podcast together. I'm sure he'll get into that. And then Revenue Growth Engine is a roadmap for businesses to develop all of the sales and marketing strategies they need to scale to create an engine for growth. And so all of this at Selling from the Heart and with what we do at Revenue Growth Engine, all of this is aimed at helping great companies grow faster.
So what was really interesting about this, Rob, is by the way, that was great, Darrell.
Thank you, Larry.
I told you, Rob, you're in for it. But this all goes back because just like your relationship with Andrew is, mine goes back with Darrell decades ago. So we both came out of the Office Technology Channel, and that's how we met. We met at a convention many decades ago. Fast forward, became really good friends, and he actually came into the dealership that I was business partners in and was coaching, training our salespeople. And I just latched onto Darrell's message. But fast forward about 8 years ago, I was on the unfortunate end of being career adjusted at 50 years old. First time ever I was career adjusted out of an organization. And it was a pretty devastating time for me. First phone call I made was to Darrell Amy. And all I wanted to do was tap his network. Who do you know, Darrell, who knows somebody who might be looking?
Yeah.
And after a very lengthy conversation and a short little break, Darrell calls me back and he says, Larry, time out here. Time out. You don't need to go back into the sales world. What you need to do is go coach and train salespeople on exactly what you did in the copier channel that made you so successful. I'd never publicly spoken, never written an article, never podcasted, never wrote a book, never coached and trained salespeople. But Darrell took a gamble on me, and I just said, hey, you know what? He saw something in me I didn't see in myself. And I just said, fine, I'll do it. What else do I have to lose? I don't even have a job right now. And that's really how this whole thing started, was Darrell saw something in me that I didn't see. I was willing to take a gamble on myself. And here we are 8 years later, and we've teamed up to bring authenticity, sincerity, relationships, and all that right back into the sales profession.
That's a very cool and organic story. And it actually reminds me, this has never probably been told ever. But so as you mentioned, Andrew and I know each other since the 80s. And before we started Work Better Now, Andrew was at a crossroads also career-wise. And he said, I'm thinking of doing this and this and this. And I go, no. Just don't do that. I don't even remember what that was. I just said, I don't think you should do that. And if he would have done whatever those things were, I don't know if we'd all be speaking right now. I don't know if there'd be Work Better Now. So it's really interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. No, and same thing here is, I'm a big believer things happen for a reason. And if the events when I was 50 didn't happen, Selling from the Heart doesn't happen, maybe some of the things with Darrell doesn't happen, maybe not, don't know. But it's just interesting how things come full circle, and things were meant to be. And here we are 8 years later, and we're really building a movement around this.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's a business coach that I've worked with, and he says something like, you get these cards, and I don't know if you guys play poker, but I'm not a big poker player like Andrew is, but you get these cards, and you can have good cards or bad cards. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What's your next move? What are you going to do?
Yep.
That's
There
all
you
that
go.
matters, right?
Yep.
Tell
I
it to my
love it.
kids all the time.
I
So
love it.
I thank you guys for selling the books. They're not going to come out in the video because of the backgrounds. I apologize about that. But I just want to make sure I got this right. You know, selling from the heart to me is really like a step-by-step guide on how to be a killer salesperson today. And a lot of that is around being authentic. It's not to say that there's not salespeople that are successful today that are not authentic. There are, but there are fewer and fewer of those people because you really need to be authentic. But I loved how it tells you everything you need to know about being a salesperson. It's not just about technique or this or that. It's about how you look at goals, and there were so many different things covered. Did I get that right? Is that a good way to look at the book?
Yeah, you know, and I still remember on the car ride where Darrell convinced me that, hey, you need to write a book and so forth. And that's a topic of a whole nother conversation. But once I agreed, I say, hey, you know what? I want to write a book that's going to pack a punch, that's going to have some substance that somebody's going to read again and again and again, as opposed to read, skim, and throw on a bookshelf, never to open again or to find, I'll find it on Amazon as a used book somewhere.
Right.
But the whole premise behind the book was two parts. It's the subtitle of the book is how your authentic self sells you. Is if you want to understand how to sell from the heart, you got to understand what's in your heart. So the first half of the book takes people on a journey. And really, when I was writing it was just me. It's how I carried myself. Highly emotional, highly relational. But if you want to bring authenticity to the forefront, you got to be willing to do the work. And at selling from the heart, we often say the inner work fuels the outer success. If you want to have tremendous amount of outer success, you really got to know what's inside of you and what makes you tick. And then obviously the last half of the book is all the skills that you bring to the forefront to bring both of those together.
Right. Right. Very cool. Very cool. And Darrell, I felt after going through Revenue Growth Engine, again, in a similar way, not just sales, but today sales and marketing are kind of so, converging. And to me, it was a step-by-step roadmap on how to create consistent revenue streams, which is so hard for small businesses to do, as well as even some larger businesses. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you absolutely did. And, it was funny. I got the idea from this book while I was mowing my lawn. And I know, I should have a virtual assistant mow my lawn. My virtual assistant does a lot of things to make my life easier. But I like to mow my lawn because I can listen to great podcasts and not be interrupted for 30 minutes. So I'm driving across my lawn. I'm this 0-turn lawnmower, and I'm looking at my car that's in the driveway, and I'm like, you know what? This lawnmower has an engine, and my car has an engine. And if I wanted to drive to New York or out to LA to see either one of you, I could take my car or I could take my lawnmower. And I think it's obvious which one I'd want. Partially because I wouldn't want to be shamelessly mocked the whole way. But the reality is every business has an engine, whether you've got a 2 horsepower engine or a 400 horsepower engine. The question is, how many cylinders are in your growth engine? And the book came out of a white sheet design to say, okay, if I was to sit down and sketch out what does a business need to have to be able to accelerate growth? What are the cylinders? And so I put it together as a roadmap, almost a template that you can lay down over your business and go, okay, we're doing good here, but we need that. And as your business gets more growth cylinders in place, obviously you get to accelerate faster. So that was the mindset behind it. And Larry and I have spent half my career in sales and sales development, the other half in digital marketing. And so this book was kind of my moment to bring all of that together into a guide so companies can make sure they've got their growth engine firing on all cylinders.
Very cool. Very cool. Tell us a little bit about how you guys work together. Do companies hire you together, separately, a little bit of both? And how does all of that work?
Yeah, one of the things, the way we run our businesses is off a model you may be familiar with called Traction, the Entrepreneur's Operating System. And
Absolutely.
in that model, what it's been really, really powerful because we realize we need visionaries and we need integrators. We need people that are thinking about how to make things better and create the future, and people who are really laser focused on executing. And So that was, one of the things that was really helpful when Larry and I came together. I think we realized that we both brought different strengths to the table. And so inside all of that, I like to look at the business in terms of who's on the team, what are their passions. We have a partner that we work with called the Why Institute that helps us understand our core motivations. And then how can we structure that team in such a way that we're all bringing our best strengths to the table. And Larry, I think that, when I think about how we work together at Selling from the Heart, it's really been based around, hey, what are our core strengths? What are we good at? And how do we blend those together to create leadership for a company? And really, we've got more than a company here. We actually have a movement. How do we take the best of what we bring to the table to be able to do that?
Yeah, and if we look at this, Rob, is I'm the high relationship guy. And it was so interesting because I got in this conversation when I had lunch with Andrew. We were talking about the same thing, is what Darrell and I bring to the table is my deep passion for building genuine, authentic relationships and going high, wide, and deep. And really, what does that take in the world that we live in today? And he's a relational guy, but Darrell's more the meaningful value person to this. He's the strategist, the visionary part of this. And what we did is, as we started to grow this, is how could we blend this together?
Mm-hmm.
Is how can we bring to the forefront and coach and train sales leaders and their sales teams in the world that we live in today? You have to bring both to the table. You have to understand how to bring authentic relationships, and you have to bring substance to the forefront. Because if you're building a lot of relationships and you're not bringing a lot of substance, you got a lot of friends.
Right.
And that's about it. So we came to an agreement years and years ago that when it was time to bring this to the forefront, we were going to take the best of both of us, put that together, develop coaching training around it, and then re-deliver that out to sales teams and salespeople so they can exponentially grow revenue.
Right. And so are your clients hiring both of you? Is it a package deal? Just tell us a little bit about how that works.
Well, what's great is we actually have an entire team of coaches that is growing. And so inside Selling from the Heart, we've got our certified coaching and training partners that are out. Like we said earlier, this is more than a business. It's a movement. We passionately believe that the sales profession needs to be transformed with authenticity, heart, and substance, all of these things that are at the core of Selling from the Heart. So inside that, we've got a growing team of coaches and trainers. We've got incredible administrative support behind that from our friends at Work Better Now. And this is, so as much as Larry and I are involved in, we get to collaborate together. And I love the way you express that, Larry, this best of, right? Because Larry was kind. Larry said, I'm relational. I'm actually, I think I'm a nice guy, but I am strategy, value, and all of that. I've learned a lot from my friend Larry, but on relationships. But this is where, we want to bring this together to say, how do we create authenticity, authentic relationships, plus authentic value, and blend that together into a highly compelling style of selling. And so we work together. We get to collaborate a lot. We podcast together at the Selling from the Heart podcast. We do challenges together, like our Authentic Selling Challenge coming up in January. We do workshops together. We're developing training together. So all of the core training is Selling from the Heart. That methodology, we've worked together to do that. And then that's able to scale out through both our network of coaches and trainers and our administrative support behind the scenes. And I don't know, is that a good answer, Larry?
Yeah. And, and then obviously there's public speaking that goes around that and so forth. So, I'll do keynotes and things like that. I have clients that I personally work with, but I'll co-collaborate a lot of that learning and development with Darrell behind the scenes. We'll strategize together and so forth. So it's just not a single person that's delivering all this. We're working together as a team. Our coaches are all working together as a team. And then we just facilitate coaching and training.
Very, very cool. It's amazing you guys are able to do that. It's hard enough to make a partnership work. But bringing two companies together, I think that's really
And here's what's interesting. I love Darrell to death, but we're completely polar opposites. But
Oh,
yet
totally.
we both know each other, right? And we podcast together. You could probably say this about Andrew when y'all get together. I know some of Darrell's next moves. I know what he's thinking, if he's moving his eyes, where he's going, and things like that. But that's what makes this so good is right. We have the utmost respect for each other, and I admire him like crazy. But we're polar opposites. But we bring the best of what we have together. And then we facilitate this with what I think is just really forward-thinking coaching and training.
Totally get it. Totally get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit. So, our audience consists of small businesses. Let's say right now we're maybe 400 employees and under, and, all the way down to a solopreneur. Most of our clients are, I would say, in the 20 to 50 employee range. When it comes to sales and marketing today, what are the one or two opportunities that most companies have? Or said another way, what do they need to change? Because we know that the way people buy has changed a lot, and it continues to change. So because of that, sales and marketing needs to change. What are those one or two opportunities that our audience needs to know in order to really put a spark plug, get that spark going in their revenue engines?
I guess that one's coming to me. I'm
gonna play off of what you say. So you started.
Well, if you think about it, there's really only two ways to grow revenue. So let's hit those two and hit them from a marketing and sales standpoint. There's net new business and there's cross-selling more to your current clients. And this was the core of the revenue growth engine when I wrote it, is this realization that most businesses are actually, when you peel it back, they're usually good at one or the other. They're really good at net new, landing new deals, bringing in new logos, or they're good at cross-selling, maximizing the revenue per client. The thing about it is when you get both of those going at the same time, whether you're looking at that as at a company level, or if you're an individual producer, sales rep, when you get net new and cross-sell going at the same time, you now get the hockey stick effect, right? You get the revenue, exponential revenue growth. And so from a sales and marketing standpoint on that, I think this comes back, I'll set Larry up really nicely here. This comes back to the two things that are core behind selling from the heart and building trust. One is your relational network. What's your relational network look like in the world of your prospects, but also in the world of your current clients? And then how are you doing at developing value? So I'm going to pass it over to Larry to talk about the network, and then you can ping it back. I want to share something about value in this current environment.
Yeah. So where about relational networks, Rob, is I learned this decades ago in the Office Technology Channel, is once I started to unpack that the people I was doing business with knew other people and that we all operated in networks, is I'm a high relational guy. I'm all about driving business and new opportunities. But what I learned is I didn't want it to come at the expense of my clients. I wanted it to come through my clients. So I knew that the more people I knew inside my current accounts, the better off I would be. And it's not just getting to know Rob, who's the CEO, but I wanted to get to know Darrell, who's the CFO, and Andrew, who is the CIO, and all the, the people in accounting and the people that were in facilities. So I knew that if I could start developing relational networks, and I was calling on small to medium-sized businesses, exactly what you were just saying, that was my forte. Right. I just knew that if I went high, wide, and tight in these small to medium-sized businesses, and I got to know people, those people knew other people. And I can exponentially grow my business as opposed to landing a client and then moving on to the next one. And I just knew, go ahead.
Is it something like build the relationships and the business will follow?
Well, you got to invest in the relationships, and here's where I'm just going to poke the bear a little bit is a lot of people out there, whether it's small businesses, medium-sized businesses, or salespeople, they'll all say relationships are important, but yet how many are really pouring into the relationship? And I'd question that one. I just knew that the more comfortable I made my clients feel about me, the more comfortable they become. The more comfortable they become, they start sharing what I call business secrets and people that they knew. And this is how you can exponentially grow your business, is you work so hard to make your clients happy and you bend over backwards for them, why can't they help you? All you got to do is ask and invest in them.
And sorry, I want to just
Mhm.
drill down just a bit more. How do you invest in them? Give us a few specific examples just to connect the dots for everybody.
I would just say, first of all, you got to listen to them. You got to ask questions. You got to deliver on your promises. You got to be willing to look somebody in the eye, say, hey, what are you working on? How can I help you? What's the next 60 days look like? What are you struggling with? What are your initiatives? Is there something that I can help you with right now? How can it be a resource to you? It's just little things like that. And I just call it leaning in, and people could tell. And it's selling from the heart. We just call this giving a rip. And when people can tell that you give a rip about them,
once they know you care.
once they know you care. And it's so interesting because I've always said this. I wasn't the smartest copier guy out there. I wasn't the most strategic, but nobody was going to outcare me. The more that you can show you care, the more people will open up. And it's just right. I just go back to, I'm a big Mark Cuban fan, Rob. And I remember one time on Shark Tank, he just dropped a quote. And I can't believe this came out of his mouth, but he said, nice matters in business. Just simple things like that.
Yeah, he's great at just boiling it down.
Yeah.
I love watching too. Go ahead, Darrell. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
Well, the transition, yeah, it's great, and wholeheartedly agree on the first point, which is really work to develop your relational network. But Larry started talking about the second point, which is really work to understand the value, what's important to your prospects and clients. And the key to finding that out is to actually talk to your clients. They'll tell you how to sell. And here's the deal. There's lots of incredible platforms and tactics when it comes to marketing right now. I mean, it'll make your head spin trying to stay on top of all of the innovation. I absolutely love it. But for all of the different platforms, tactics, things you can do in marketing, what we tend to forget about is, what are we actually saying? What's our message? And I'm a firm believer that buyers don't buy products and services. They buy the outcomes the products and services enable.
Not the drill bit, right?
Yeah, I love that. I tell that story all the time, Rob. It's my favorite story. And I embellish it a little bit. Maybe next time we talk, I'll share that. But the fun thing about that is, here we are. We're recording this. We're heading into a new year, 2023. And whatever market you sell in, for every outcome your buyers want, there are obstacles to that outcome. So it might be interest rates, it might be supply chain issues, it might be global unrest. There's all a long list of things out there. And if buyers don't buy products and services, they buy the outcomes, and they need to overcome the obstacles. You may still be selling the same products and services you sold last year, but what people are buying might be different. In terms of the outcomes they need are different. Before the pandemic, tech companies I worked with, they surveyed, we want to scale, we want rapid growth, all of that. When the pandemic happened, still selling the same cloud service or whatever product, but now it's about redundancy, resiliency, remote work. What are the outcomes your clients want right now? How do you find that out? Well, you get the secret sauce by doing what Larry just talked about, which is talking to your current clients and leaning in and listening. When you get those two things together, now your sales conversations are meaningful and your marketing message is meaningful. And in the revenue growth engine, we say the message is actually the fuel for that engine. You put bad gas, you can have a Ferrari, but if you put watered down gasoline in that Ferrari, you're not going to go anywhere. But if you put a good fuel in that engine, which I would say is a focused message, focused on the outcomes your clients want in the current environment, now you're going to be able to accelerate your sales and marketing. And by the way, while you're at it, it'd be good to get your sales and marketing people hanging out, so you're actually saying the same message, which is a whole other thing around alignment, which we talk about in the revenue growth engine.
Yeah. Very, very important point. I mean, it's how many times do you go onto a website and you're like, oh, this is really interesting, and then a sales rep or a BDR person engages with you, and their messaging is totally different. And what that does is it creates FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And once that happens, you're really struggling to get back in the
trust.
game.
Trust drops.
Trust
right?
erodes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are trust.
You guys familiar with Jack Daly?
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So I love Jack's definition of sales. It's the transfer of trust.
Yeah.
Yep.
And everything you guys
Beautiful.
are saying is exactly about that. It's about building that trust, and you do that obviously through authenticity, and messaging that reflects that. I'm going to switch
Mhm.
gears a little bit. You guys have been working with your WBNBA Carmen for some time. Tell us a little bit about the experience.
I want to tell it's been great, but I want to tell an origin story to set this up, because
yeah.
you told our origin story earlier. My origin story for starting a business 19 years ago in January, of be 19 years, was going to a conference, and the guy that was speaking, his name's a guy named Andy Stanley that Larry and I are both fans of. Andy Stanley said, here's what you need to do. I want you to get a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle. On one side, I want you to write down everything that you're good at. And on the left side, I want you to write down everything that you enjoy doing. So I was just bold enough 19 plus years ago to do that. And I said, I enjoy coming up with new ideas and teaching them to people. That's what I like doing. And I just happened at that time to be good at a segment of the software business. So within 90 days, I started my first business on the premise of, because when I went back in the room with that sheet of paper, Andy said, see that sheet of paper? Stop doing everything else. And so I did. And the last 19 years have been this journey of, what can I take off my plate that is not core to what I'm actually good at? And so fast forward, Larry and I have this business. We're expanding, we're bringing on coaches, we're bringing on wonderful, awesome clients. And I started looking at all of the things I was doing, and Larry started looking at all the things he was doing. And I just remembered that moment from 19 years ago where I was like, wait a sec, all of this stuff has now, over the last couple of decades, started to take up chunks of my time. And not just my time,
Focus.
but also my cluttered mind. And so we, somehow, I don't remember where the moment was. It was just one of those moments where we're like, we need some help.
Well, I think what
help.
happened, Rob, is we both got frustrated at almost the same time, because
Mm-hmm.
we were deep in the weeds. And I think, you've experienced this with other people you talk to. We were getting deep in the weeds of doing stuff that prevented us from revenue generating activities, and like producing our podcast and doing all these things. And as we brought clients on, we were onboarding them and all that. And then pretty soon, we had this wake up call that this is preventing us from growing this thing. So I think it was at that moment, Darrell had the light bulb moment. And then I really don't know the story, but Darrell can share it. I don't know how he came across WBN, but he goes, Larry, I think I found this company that could possibly help us out. And by the way, I think they work with Jack Daly. And I go, okay, all in. And then we set up the meeting and we talked to Andrew. And the next thing you know, we're doing interviews. And the next thing we know, we got Carmen. And it was just like, holy smokes.
That's total
awesome.
home run.
And what is having Carmen had enabled you to do?
Well, you could say it's freed up time, and it certainly has, for our business. And I think that, if I was to say even before that, I think it's actually made us into a business. We had to take that step from two guys, to having, the first member of our team. And since then, our team is growing. We're bringing on coaches and all of that. And so I don't think we would hit that step without that I'll call it a baby step, but it wasn't a baby step to bring in a virtual assistant. And so to me, this was like the first step for us being able to scale the company. But Larry, to me, it's freed up time, but more than anything, for me, it's freed up mental bandwidth, for so many things that were cluttering my mind. Guilty. I felt guilt all the time for things that weren't getting done because it just weren't enough hours in the day. And so bringing in Carmen, bringing in a virtual assistant, someone onto our team, it immediately just expanded capacity. And to me, it was like someone going through and decluttering my mind. And that has led to, I think, a lot of the innovation and ideas that are going to allow our company to scale. I mean, now look, 2023, the innovation that's coming together at Selling from the Heart and the back end infrastructure of what we're doing at Revenue Growth Engine as well has been enabled by having, at least in my mind, having my mind back so I can actually think and not be worried about constantly, what am I missing? What did I forget? What is Larry going to be upset about?
Well, I think the other thing too, Rob, is, and just looking at this through a different lens, is it also legitimizes who we are through the lens of our clients and our prospects. And, you know, and I look at this as, you know, nothing worse than, you know, if you peel back the kimono and then all of a sudden they know it's just a couple guys putting something together. But that's how things start. I totally get it. And I think people understand that. But at a certain point in time, when we agreed to agree and Carmen came aboard, she was a blessing at the right time, because not only that, what Darrell said, but it really lent some legitimacy and some credibility to who we are, to say, hey, you know what? Our administrator will get back to you, right? And she'll coordinate things with you. And now, as we bring podcast guests on, right, we'll have our administrator get with you and so forth. It turns this completely 360 degrees around.
First of all, thanks for being very candid. Some of the things you mentioned are, particularly the last few comments, Larry, I think are very candid, and it's really cool to hear that. I mean, it sounds like one of the things we talked about, what we do for our clients is we unleash them, and it sounds like that's kind of what happened with you guys, with Carmen, and we know she's thrilled as well. So that's really cool. So as we wrap up, Larry, Darrell, tell us a little bit more about where people can find out more about your company, or I should say companies.
I would say if they want to find out anything they want to find out, just go to sellingfromtheheart.net. And if they want a free copy of the book, I'd be more than happy to send it. They can just go to sellingfromtheheart.net/book. But you can learn all about what we're up to at sellingfromtheheart.net.
Awesome. Yeah. And if you need a revenue growth engine, on top of that, both Larry and I would love to send you our books. In fact, that's been one of the things that we've done to help spread the word. And Carmen, our assistant, helps us be able to do this. We send out all of our friends. If you'll pay shipping and handling, we'll get you an autographed copy of our books, sellingfromtheheart.net, and then revenuegrowthengine.com. You can go there as well. And I'd love to send you a copy. And when you do that, guess who will put all of the behind the scenes stuff together?
None other than Carmen.
A label comes out of my printer, I sign the book and send it off. And none of that would have been possible without Work Better Now. And these are, you know, little thing, massive hassle.
Yep. Massive.
It used to take an hour or two a week just to fool with that. Now it takes 10 minutes, right? Labels come out, sign the book.
And you guys are focused on those higher valued activities and delivering value to clients, growing your business. So,
absolutely.
Gentlemen, thanks so much.
Very thankful for you guys.
Thanks so much for sharing your experience and your insights. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to doing this again for sure.
You have to.
Maybe we'll bring AC on and we'll just, you know.
Oh, that'd be something else.
Yeah.
No, but hey, Rob, I just wanted to say, you know, and same here, is from the bottom of my heart. I mean, we appreciate that our paths crossed. We wouldn't be where we're at with Work Better Now, and we wouldn't be where we're at with the glue. And I always say Carmen's the glue to Selling from the Heart. She really is. So thank you.
Our pleasure. That's what we do. It's so rewarding to hear that. Really appreciate the feedback, and again, really appreciate you guys spending a few minutes with us today.
Oh, you're welcome.